Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, continuing our focus on looking at the book now is Watch the Watcher, published by Yinka Odumakin. Earlier you had My Watch. Well, we're joined by Professor Oye Ibidapo-Obe, former Vice Chancellor of University of Lagos. Thank you for coming on this morning, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Incidentally, in the response while this book was being launched, Watch the Watcher, University of Lagos was mentioned. While one of, I think it was Mr. Shopa, who was talking about when he was setting an account straight, that he, Obasanjo, had come to the graduation ceremony in the University of Lagos, and one would have thought, wait a minute, could that happen in the VC's office? Well, what do you think about this book?
Which of them now?
Watch the Watcher.
Well, I've just read the review by Professor Dara on the Watch the Watcher. So I've not really got the book, but I hope I'll get my hands on it. I like to read things like this. It seems to be, I mean, let's look at it from this point of view. Number one, I think in doing all these things, because I think this is part of the things that is missing in our country today, we need to do things a little more cautiously in terms of the language we use. For example, I find it a little strange in terms of our culture. If you say an elder is lying, I mean, you don't use these words, you are lying, you're a liar, you know, it's a teacher of lies. No. I mean, a man has given his own memos, what is in his own memory in terms of what is done, yes. Now, it's possible that there are missing gaps. And you might say, these are the missing gaps. Perhaps these are things that also happened that he did not. I thought it's a question of what we want to achieve. You can still achieve the same thing without, as it were, you know, casting insults and aspersion. It's not good for our polity, I think.
But incidentally, all of these things are in print. Because, I mean, General Sama's book was out. There were, let's use the word, missing gaps. Rufai's book was out. They said there were missing gaps. Now this one, missing gaps. And how do we come about the way we're going?
Well, number one, you know, all of them are politicians. And what they try to do, a politician try to score a point in short term. Unfortunately, I've not seen, apart from my initial forefathers in this country, Chief Awolowo, Amadu Bello, and to a large extent, Nnamdi Azikiwe and Okpara. We don't see to have politicians that think long term. All of them are looking at the next election, and that is terribly constraining. That does not give us the opportunity to look at national development and see where the future will be. Because, as I said, it's the language, it's the attitude of the people. All these books are good. They are good for research. They are good for learning. For example, yes, they said, yes, it did come to the University of Lagos for a convocation when I was Vice Chancellor. But again, I didn't leave my campus, so I didn't know where they met, and then they decided to, whatever they have to do over there. But what is important is when you put these ideas down, okay, you have to ensure that they are true. I thought there could have been a system whereby some of these books themselves, before they come out, will have gone through some process. Not necessarily a publisher's process. It could be a one-on-one, but a process that will have given it a thorough pre-review in terms of authenticity of what is in the...
Well, I do know that the former president did say that his own books did go through the eagle eyes of, you know, some very personal friends of his, and of course his personal assistant as well. And some people have also looked at the language in that book. I'm sure you've read the book, you were at the launch. That the language too was rather unbecoming of a president. He was, especially in the volume 3 of his book, he was rather, he spared no one in terms of how he spoke about what he felt about them. It was, people say it was maybe honest, but was brutal.
Yes, I do agree with you that some of the languages, even in that book, in current times, you know, in contemporary times, perhaps could have been a little softened as it is. But you see a man who started by quoting Ezekiel, and that he needed to do what he has to do. just to make sure that it's absorbed, things like that. So he is motivated by that, and I'm sure that has influenced some of the things he said, to say that you have to say the way it is, otherwise you are going to go down with those people who are doing it. But again, there could have been an avenue whereby some of these issues should have been. I mean, what really intrigues me more than anything else, that why is it that this man was not given an opportunity to have easy access and do some of these things? So I said, something is wrong with our system, really. Something is wrong with our system. We need to look at it and look at those structures. You know.
Sorry, how do you mean easy access?
No, access to discuss these things. For example, okay, when I was Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, for example, I have access to all the past Vice Chancellors. And I'm able to ask them questions, and they're able to give me certain information and quote and unquote instructions that I can go upon.
That's the other way around. I mean, you had access to the past Vice Chancellors.
Yes,
so the past Vice Chancellors have access to you. It's a question. I mean, you wanted to see them. You saw them when you wanted to see them. The question is, did they also have access to you in terms
They do. Of course, they do have access to me.
Excuse me.
They give me a call on issues that they think is likely to, impinge on the prestige of the University of Lagos. They do. They do. And they call me in to come and have discussions with them.
The picture I was trying to paint was that it's actually the other way around. I mean, if it was the question of the man, the president seeking the advice of the past president, people will say, well, that is normal. But when the past president keeps wanting to give instructions or, giving a message on how things should be done, people will say, but you had your tenure.
Well, yes, you've had your tenure, but that does not exclude. In any case, it's not going to be president. What I'm saying is the interest of even the incumbent to listen to predecessors. There are certain things that you probably don't know. I'm only saying it makes things better. The university system works so well, in spite of the fact that sometimes you compete with each other to get the position. Once you get the position, everybody accepts that you have the positions and you get advice from, well, it's you make a decision, all right. But you know that when you make a decision, you take all those people into consideration. I'm only trying to advocate that perhaps at the end of the day, you have to use the system we use at the university to solve some of these problems in this country.
Well, you're an academic, a professor, and people of your type will always tell us that it is always good to have what they call a healthy argument, a healthy discussion on issues. And we have seen even in times past, philosophers come in to rebuff counter claims and claims, of different other philosophers, and we have seen them bring in their own philosophies and arguments. Isn't that what we should be doing now with this particular book, which you have written? I mean, you have read, which is My Watch.
Yes.
So, and I'm sure that's why we're here. If some have come up to react, like what Odumakin has written, and a couple of others who have passed some comments on some of those contents in those 3 volumes. What do you think we as a people, as a nation, can gain from all of this? Because he's written his own version from his viewpoint, from his perspective, and that's how he feels it. What can the nation do in the light of this? Response to people's opinion?
I think basically it's quite healthy. It's quite healthy. But what I'm saying is that there are certain, basic parameters that we should not debase. I'm only, and it's for both books.
That's why I use the word healthy argument.
Yeah. So we should put the book in public domain. We should allow people to look at these books in terms of its content, even in terms of its language, and make, statements about it, okay? But we should not just throw the book into the wastebasket based on this idea of my watch or my command or Watch the Watchman. Everything, there's a quantum of information in everything. Now, if you look at what is going on now, I don't think there's too much argument about volume 1 of that book.
I realize that.
Yeah, it's just that really is the autobiography as it were. But when you go to volume 2, which talks about his
from the prison
life.
life.
Exactly, and blah, blah, volume 3. Those are his memoirs. Those are his memoirs, the papers he could collect, the things he could recollect when he was head of state. Those are his memoirs.
But people say that that memoir is rather convenient. I mean, when you remember yourself in, they say it was self-aggrandizing, self-praise, he did almost everything.
That is all fine.
That is what people say, and they say you were not perfect. You cannot be perfect, and you cannot just come from that pedestal of, you know, almost being perfect and say you're correcting everybody else. Do you think that, you know, President Obasanjo is being misunderstood? Do you have that impression?
Well, honestly, I know nobody could be perfect. But what I'm saying is, I mean, if I write the history of the University of Lagos, I'm going to write the history of the University of Lagos from my own perspective. I'm going to tell everybody who cares to listen as to what I did to get the University of Lagos from where it was to, you know, where I left it and things like that. That is the Imam, that's what we call the drum major instinct. Every person has that drum major instinct.
Why